So Shyamalan wants to tackle fairy tales now in the film Lady in the Water, which was released in 2006. This stars Paul Giamatti and Bryce Dallas Howard, as well as quite a few other recognizable names, including Freddie Rodriguez, who I really like in the film Planet Terror. I've seen him pop up a few times here and there, but he pops in here as well. Of course, we'll get into all of that. This is basically a fairy tale, a classic bedtime story for a new generation, which pretty much describes how the film is. And, excuse me, this is going to be the last film I'm going to be reviewing by Shyamalan in my Bad Movie Aficionado Shyamalan Edition series. This one's pretty bad. Entertainingly bad, similar to The Happening. Like I said, he likes to try different ideas, obviously, such as After Earth being sci-fi, and that big thing where he likes to create down-to-earth locations and situations and, how do you say, settings, I should say, but slightly skew them. This one's skewed to the max because it's a fairy tale, it's a fantasy film. But there's still just weird ways that people talk to each other, and it just gets freaking weird. But let's talk about how weird exactly this film gets. We start off with like a whole story that has some drawings, like as the credit, not as the credits roll, but as an intro to the film, where these white stick figures are, and it's explaining the history. Apparently man and the people of the water who live in the blue world were once connected and once lived among each other, but they disconnected and separated, and since then the people who live in the water, basically called Narfs, have always been trying to connect to I feel so stupid describing this story. Trying to connect to the human world and trying to connect, the families back together or whatnot. And they keep sending these these young Narfs to send messages, but they keep being stopped by these creatures called Scrunts. And the Scrunts they live in this world and they try to stop the Narfs, but nobody sees the Scrunts for some reason. They're these wolf-like creatures who live in the grass, and they kind of camouflage into the grass. And also, the Narf people, or the people from the blue world, send these young Narfs at great peril, but there's laws to protect them. Throughout the movie, I don't see many laws or much protection of these Narfs, because it's explained at the beginning of the film that a lot of them have been killed off, and apparently they're young. So, yeah, some people say, like, I don't know. It's one of those. We're introduced to this guy named what is his name? Cleveland Heap. Cleveland Heap. He's basically the maintenance man and manager of a motel hotel. I can't really tell. It looks like a motel, but people live there permanently. So an apartment maybe as well. I don't know. I don't know if there's many hotels where people actually like reside in full time, or if they like live there for 6 months, a year. I've never really seen one. Usually it's pretty much by the night, but there's a whole community of people that live in this apartment. It takes place in Philadelphia, I believe. Definitely Pennsylvania, so I'm guessing Philadelphia. I don't know if they mentioned Philly specifically in the film, but yeah. This guy, he's basically running this place. He's taking care of, everybody in the motel slash apartment, whatever it is. They all have quirks, obviously. You meet like a whole bunch of different people. Everybody's having their problems. He also starts discovering some pool problems because the water starts to change and it starts to get like muddy all the time. And there's tenants that keep claiming that they keep seeing someone or something in the water. So he goes to investigate constantly. Calls like the water technician guy or whatever to come check the water all the time, and apparently the water has changed and yada yada. One night he sees it for himself. He's outside at night and he discovers something in the water, and he jumps in to go check it out, but nothing's there. And then something happens to him where he just passes out or something like that and drops into the water. And when he wakes up, he's back in his room, and there's this woman standing there, this young woman played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she introduces herself as Story. So her name is Story, and basically Mr. Heap or Cleveland Heap thanks her for saving him, but tells her she needs to go because he's old fashioned and he doesn't even know her name. So he just automatically assumes that she's a prostitute or something, even though she saved his life, but whatever. So this is where she starts to introduce herself as a narf and talk about the blue world or whatnot. He's kind of not having it at the beginning, but he's not making a super big deal about it. Like, he's not asking her questions about is she, high or something like that. There's a scene where he goes with her to investigate outside because she starts talking about these scrunts, which is these wolves. And he goes with her and he's carrying her. And he's looking around with a flashlight too. And then one of the creatures comes out and starts to chase them. And he runs back to the motel, like his room. And he's doing the funniest scream. I remember back in the day watching this film for the first time when I absolutely hated it. And I'm not the biggest fan in the world of it, but it's still entertaining and has its moments. He's running back to the place and he's doing this whole just constantly. Like, it's comical. You could tell he's scared, but it's just so stupid the way he does it. And then Bryce Dallas Howard is just pointing and she's screaming as well. He's just running with her and like carrying her and she's just going like this. And it just goes on for like 15 seconds of just him. It's so good. I loved it. There's a character named Young Soon, and she is a very stereotypical young Asian American girl who has an extremely stereotypical Asian accent. And she has this. She's really hot, by the way. They introduce her at the beginning of the film, where just on like an ass shot, and she's like shaking in these sexy jeans, and she's sitting by the pool in this one scene, and she has this like crazy mohawk that like is this tall. She has like black hair with red streaks, and she's a character that helps him understand this whole story fairy tale thing going on, because apparently this story of the Narf is like an Eastern bedtime story kind of thing. And as Story, the character Story, is explaining more and more, Young Soon's mother starts to explain a lot more about this fairy tale that's going on. Basically, there's a vessel that once the vessel is like supposed to be this person that she's supposed to connect with, and once she does, there's all kinds of like other symbols, like you got the symbolist, the guild, the healer, the interpreter, and whatnot, and you have all these people apparently living in this complex that all like serve some purpose for this to this like prophecy to change the world. One of the people in the motel is supposed to be the author of this book, and this book is going to change some kid's life in the far future, and it's Story's job to go like gather all these people so that she can awaken this writer's passion and mind to write this story, and also be able to have her sent off back to her blue world by this eagle, which is called the Etlon, which is a giant eagle that will carry her away to her own world. If the vessel is able to be awakened. This film is batshit. There's good moments in this film. The character played by Freddie Rodriguez, not good moments, but there's some good moments, but the character played by Freddie Rodriguez is this guy who claims himself as a scientist because he's trying to experiment working out one side of his body. So he's got his right arm that is jacked, and he does nothing to the left side of his body. Why? Because he's a scientist who experiments. His name is Reggie. You also got this guy who moves in. He's a movie and film critic, and he's like the biggest nerd that there is, and he basically claims that there's no more originality to life, and he's like the boring man with the glasses who's just so like, yeah, and like monotone and shit like that. And he's quirky because he's like the stereotypical critic that you always see. The guy that knows everything about every book and every film and how it's going to play out even before it starts. So there's those kind of metaphors in this film from M. Night Shyamalan. Shyamalan, kind of playing the movie off as if it's a storybook, pretty much. So the film really plays as if it's like one of those like Chronicles of Narnia books or The Golden Compass or something like that. But there's so many freaking like names of shit. Like there's the Tartatic, the Tartutic or something like that, which is these tree monkeys with like branches coming off of them that act as guardians for the Scrunts on the one specific night that story is supposed to be carried off away by the Eatlon with the giant eagle. And, these people are starting to, or I should say, Cleveland, the manager of the motel, is trying to gather these people around who are supposed to be these symbols. And, I mean, there's a scene where, the most bonkers scene in the movie, where Young Soon's mom tells Young Soon that she looks at Cleveland as a stranger, and the only way she's able to tell him more of the story is if she starts to see him as a child. So what do they have to do? She has to bake him some cookies and milk so he can eat them like a little kid and act like a little kid and pretty much beg her to tell him more of the story. Shyamalan, what the fuck? Jesus Christ. You're probably like listening to me and being like, okay, so what were the good parts of the movie? I don't know, there's moments. There's a scene at the end where Paul Giamatti is giving this monologue. Actually, I should probably backtrack and tell something else before that. Story was looking through his bookshelf and she found a journal, and you get this really heartbreaking history about Cleveland and the reason why he's working as a manager at this hotel. Apparently, his wife and children were murdered. We don't know where, but that's what led him to this hotel, and it kind of shows why he's very distant from, Story and always wanting her fully clothed, even though she sometimes walks around naked because she's an ARF. And he's always, trying to fully dress her and doesn't want to have any relationship whatsoever. He's a very isolated person. But at the end, he's giving this monologue, and he's giving it really heartbreakingly, and the only way Paul Giamatti, an amazing actor, can do. And it's heartbreaking the way he's holding this woman and telling this story so profoundly. Like he's thanking all the people who live in this motel as if they're his brand new family, as if he has a new family now, even though it's not a spouse or a girlfriend. It's this large family of all these quirky characters that he's been able to develop a relationship with for such a great amount of time. There's a scene too where he dives into the pool to go retrieve this stuff called key because one of the Scrunts bites what's her face Story, and this like bluish brownish mud stuff can heal these wounds because the Scrunts have this poison that uh, she she got like infected with. I swear if I wasn't talking about a movie you'd think I'm smoking something really really good. Apparently Shyamalan was smoking something really really good. He dives into this pool and goes underneath the drain thing. It's a pretty big ass drain, and he discovers this cave that Story created while she was down living in the pool and the underneath the pool and whatever. And it's one of those scenes you see in a lot of movies where the character can somehow has power lungs and can hold his breath for like 5 minutes. It's an impossible amount of time for this guy to hold his breath that long, but he's going around this room holding his breath. He'll take a breath every once in a while because there's these upside down cups on shelves, and he'll take one and with a little straw he'll like breathe the air out of the cups, but he only does it like once and he's down there for a stupid amount of time. It just doesn't make any sense. But He brings her back that stuff, and basically heals her. M. Night Shyamalan makes a cameo as he does in all his films, but he plays a pretty big character in this film. He ends up being the guy who's going to write this book, so the prophet, or the vessel, I should say. And he's been writing this book for 6 months, but had like writer's block. And when he meets Story, he gets all the writer's block wiped away, and he's able to write this. Story has a sister named Anna, and there's this scene too where apparently for Story to give all the answers that she needs, she can't have anybody listen to her. So there's a scene with the sister where Story's in the shower and the sister is trying to ask her questions while Story in the shower gives like symbols. So if she pulls her hair or pulls her ear, touches her shoulder or something like that, it means different things. So that's how they have the conversation where the sister is telling the answers to everybody else. It's really fucking weird. There's this guy who does crossword puzzles all the time, and he ends up being the interpreter, so he can interpret the words from the crossword puzzles. There's a scene where his son gets some answers to this prophecy from cereal boxes. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Fucking watch Lady in the Water if you've never seen the movie before. This kid gets symbols to put this prophecy together of all these people from cereal boxes. Like, because Trix is gonna get you the answer, and fucking Count Chocula is obviously going to set off this brand new world of, getting these water people and humans together again. And, Honey Nut Cheerios obviously means that they have to throw a pool party and everything. And I'm not making this up. The what's the symbolist, the healer, and they decide to throw this pool party at the end of the film where they have to get this band to distract the Scrunts, I guess, by playing this song at a specific time, and there's going to be some kind of distraction with a few hundred people at this party somehow. And I do like the scene where the critic, Mr. Farber is his name. There's a scene where he's in a hallway and he's about to be attacked by a scrunt. What does he say? He's like, he sees the scrunt in front of him and he's like, this is just like one of those scenes in a horror movie where the unlikable character will be attacked immediately. And he said, like, the unlikable character will be attacked immediately, but unless it's a film that is PG or under, where there is no previous cursing or nudity or violence of any kind, then he will turn around slowly and walk out the door and escape just in time to not be attacked. And then he turns around and then the thing just mauls him. So I found that funny because he talks like a critic, and it's very like that was one of the most humorous moments for sure. And I just it's got its moments. My favorite being Paul Giamatti's monologue, because it's Paul Giamatti and he's such a phenomenal actor. But they have this party, and then of course the eagle comes. This film has a really good score. That's another good thing about this film, is it has an amazing score that fits a profound fairy tale kind of story very well. And this film does, well, the score, I mean, does a really good job with the film. But other than a few scenes, like, the film is really stupid. The fairy tale element works, but it's in the middle of a friggin' motel in Pennsylvania. Shyamalan, you tried again. If you want to be unique, if you want for uniqueness, yep. I haven't seen many movies where kids read cereal boxes, like, not read the back of cereal boxes. I mean read like a psychic, like looking at these cereal boxes and like, we have to do this, and it's telling me this and that, and everybody's standing behind him and they're just like mesmerized at this kid, and he's like this prophet kid that is going to reveal so many things from a cupboard of cereal. I'm not making this up. You don't believe me? Go watch the fucking movie. I'm done with it though. Of course, Story gets saved. She gets carried off by the eagle. And everybody lives happily ever after. That's Lady in the Water by M. Night Shyamalan. And that's all I got. Anybody see the Oscars this weekend? Subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more real soon. And stay tuned if you like. Take care. Till next time, take it easy.